live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Good evening and welcome to the National News broadcast, bringing to you live from the National News Studios here at the ChannelEye Rupavahini Corporation. We are ready to bring you the top stories here at home and around the world. I'm Charita Binapurarachi. Joining me today is Sharifa Tahir. Bus Association purpose a 30% price hike in bus fares. Cabinet approves to revise railway charges. Discussions are underway to purchase another 4 oil tankers from India. Talks between Minister Vijay Sekhar and Qatar State Minister of Energy to resolve the prevailing fuel crisis. $20 million financial assistance from the United States. Steps taken to liquidate 5 failed finance companies. 46 bodies detected in a lorry in Texas, USA. The first test match between Sri Lanka and Australia begins tomorrow in Galle.
We move on to those and other stories in detail now. Taking a look at the top stories. President of Joint Transport Operations Centre, Sampath Ranasinghe, says that all parties agreed to increase the bus fares by 30% from June 30th midnight. A discussion was held between Minister Bandula Gunawardena, National Transport Commission and Private Bus Services Association over the bus fare price hike.
Top story.
The meeting was held at the Ministry of Transport. However, President of Private Bus Owners Association Gamuno Vijayaratna said that no agreement was reached to revise bus fares. Chairman of Sri Lanka Transport Board Kingsley Ranawaka mentioned that the Transport Board has not been part of any discussion to revise the bus fares. Chairman of the SLTB, Kingsley Ranawaka, said that the bus fares will not be revised or increased at present. He said that the Transport Board has been instructed to carry out the services under the recently revised bus fares. Accordingly, he added that the SLTB buses will provide services in a normalized manner, while fuel required for the private sector buses will be provided through SLTB.
පෞද්ගලිකාංශයට ලබා දිය යුතු ඉන්ධන ප්‍රමාණයත් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ගමනාගමන මණ්ඩලයට ලබා දිය යුතු ඉන්ධන ප්‍රමාණයත් අපිට නිරන්තරයෙන්ම ලැබෙමින් පවතිනවා ගැටලුවක් නැහැ.
Meanwhile, Deputy General Manager of Railways Department Gamini Senevratna said that additional locomotives and compartments will be included into operations with the aim to further strengthen the public transport service. Deputy General Manager of Railways Department Gamini Senevratna said that the commuters should not inflict any unnecessary fear over the operations. He added that as instructed by the Railways General Manager, several more trains will be deployed for services in near future.
ඒ නිසා කිසිම බයක් ඇති කරගත යුතු නැහැ. දුම්රිය සාමාන්‍ය අධිකාරිතුමාගේ උපදෙස් පරිදි තව දුම්රිය කිහිපයක් ධාවනයට ඉදිරියේ කිරීමටත් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. මේ වන විටත් දුම්රිය ගණනාවක් මගී ජනතාවගේ වැඩිවීම නිසා අපි ධාවනයට එක් කරලා තියෙනවා.
High Commissioner of Sri Lanka to India, Milinda Morogoda, met with the Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas and Housing and Urban Affairs of Indian Hardeep Singh Puri yesterday. The meeting was held to discuss urgent matters pertaining to bilateral energy cooperation. At the outset, High Commissioner Morogoda briefed Minister Puri on the acute challenges that Sri Lanka is currently facing with regard to the supply and distribution of petroleum products and the severe hardship that the people are undergoing. While thanking India for the assistance that was extended in the form of lines of credit to import fuel, the High Commission of Sri Lanka discussed with Minister Puri the possibility of securing petrol and diesel supplies that are required by Sri Lanka at present on an urgent basis. Minister Puri responded positively in this regard and assured the High Commissioner of all possible support to Sri Lanka at this critical juncture. The High Commissioner and the Minister also discussed modalities through which India and Sri Lanka could further expand cooperation in the petroleum sector to help overcome the immediate crisis to ensure the energy security in Sri Lanka. In this context, High Commissioner Morogoda and Minister Puri discussed ways and means through which Sri Lanka could establish long-term ties in petroleum, oil, gas and related logistics sectors. In a tweet, Minister Kanchana Wijesekara said that the government or Ceylon Petroleum Corporation have not made advance payments to any agent or a first-time fuel supply company. The minister has made these remarks in response to a statement issued by JVP leader Anurukumar Dissanayake. He said that a letter of credit was opened through People's Bank and not a cash advancement. Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited has said that the distribution of fuel or filling stations has been temporarily suspended. Fuel will only be issued for essential services according to the company. The decision will be in effect until the 10th July. Lanka IOC company has announced that fuel will be distributed to 116 IOC filling stations today. The announcement further indicated that fuel will be issued from Trincomalee IOC terminal. IOC company has also said that Octane 92 petrol has been issued to many filling stations and Colombo districts. Reports have indicated that many filling stations in the country had not received fuel yesterday. Public had alleged that even through the token system affiliated to filling stations had been initiated, the relevant system was not implemented in several filling stations. Reports have further indicated that the token system has been initiated in several filling stations in the outskirts of Colombo district. Long queues were seen near urban and rural filling stations in the country today. Reports have also indicated that fuel distribution was carried out in a limited number of filling stations. Meanwhile, Co-Secretary of the Sri Lanka Petroleum Private Tankers Owners Association, Shanta Silva, said that only 10% of the bowsers were included into the distribution services today. Many people utilized public transport services today due to the limited fuel supply in the country. Accordingly, many used buses and railway services to report to their duties. Minister Kanchana Wijesekara called on the State Minister of Energy for Qatar today.
The meeting was held with the aim to resolve the energy crisis in Sri Lanka. Accordingly, Minister Wijesekara met with the Qatar State Minister Saud Sharida Al-Khabi to discuss the supply of petroleum products, LPG and LNG to Sri Lanka to overcome the energy crisis with the assistance of Qatar Energy and the Qatar Development Fund. President of the United States Joe Biden announced $20 million in additional assistance to strengthen food security in Sri Lanka, building on other recent funding announcements from the United States. The newly posted assistance will target Sri Lankans in most needed during the current economic crisis.
The relevant announcement made at the G7 summit today. A statement issued by the Embassy of the United States in Colombo has indicated that the funding aims to support a school nutrition program that will feed over 800,000 Sri Lankan children and provide food vouchers for over 27,000 pregnant and lactating women over the next 15 months. The effort also plans to support approximately 30,000 farmers through the contribution of agricultural assistance and cash in order to increase food production in vulnerable Sri Lankan communities. The $20 billion of humanitarian assistance announced today builds on nearly $20 million in recent U.S. commitments in economic and humanitarian assistance, totalating $32 million in U.S. support for the people in Sri Lanka. Funding is provided through the U.S. aid and will be awarded to partners that adhere to globally recognized monitoring and evaluation standards. This ensures the funding is accounted for and assistance and reaches those identified as most vulnerable to food insecurity.
In the meantime, Central Bank of Sri Lanka has raised more than 142 billion rupees through a treasury bond auction today. Treasury bonds were issued to the auction under the categories, and accordingly the bonds were issued up to 17 to 18 annual interest rate basis. The first category expected to mature on the 1st of June of 2025, the second category on January 15th of 2028, while the third category is expected to mature on the 15th of May of 2031. Top-level financial institutions, including local banks, have submitted bids at the bond auction.
Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal to revise the railway charges, and accordingly passenger transport charges will be revised after more than 5 years. The goods transport and postal transport charges will have not been revised approximately in 14 years. The recurrent loss of the department on the rise due to the rapid price hike of fuel experienced recently. Therefore, it has become vital to increase the income earned by the department in order to sustain a satisfactory railway service. The Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal to provide long-term agreements with listed oil companies in the oil-producing countries following the formal procedure, allowing them to import, distribute and market fuel in Sri Lanka. Ensuring an uninterrupted fuel supply to the country has become a challenge due to the current foreign exchange crisis in Sri Lanka. The Cabinet has observed the apprentices to enter into long-term agreements with selected companies to enable them to import and sell fuel using the funds without putting pressure on the country's foreign exchange problem. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation contributes around 90% of the total fuel supply to the country, while remaining 10% is supplied by the Ceylon Indian Oil Company. Cabinet of Ministers approved the combined proposal to allow the importation, supply and sale of Jet A1 aviation fuel to fuel bunkers registered with the Sri Lanka Ports Authority to enable the continuation of aviation services. The daily aviation fuel requirement for aircraft arriving in and departing from Sri Lanka is approximately 1.2 million litres. At present, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has failed to provide even the minimum amount of fuel required to maintain the operations of domestic and foreign airlines under the prevailing situation in the country. Cabinet of Ministers has decided to remove the requirement of family background report for female migrant employees. It has been reported that women having intention to engage in work abroad face inconvenience due to the delays related to the issuance of relevant reports under various reasons by some officers, although all qualifications are fulfilled. Reports have also indicated that women who do not possess qualifications to submit such reports happen to set offshores through illegal means without any supervision and encounter numerous issues while abroad. Minister Vijayadas Rajapaksa says the 22nd constitutional amendment will be presented to the Parliament without any further delay.
The minister made these remarks during a media briefing held at the Ministry of Mass Media yesterday. Minister Vijayadas Rajapaksa said that the Cabinet of Ministers instructed the 22nd constitutional amendment to the Parliament after gazetting the draft bill. Accordingly, the minister said that the draft bill will be gazetted today or tomorrow. He added that the necessary constitutional procedures will be followed when introducing the draft bill to the Parliament. The minister also said that the 21st Amendment bill presented by the opposition may not be presented as the Supreme Court has pointed out the necessity of a referendum to pass each provision of the draft bill.
And meanwhile, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has decided to liquidate 5 failed finance companies. Actions will be taken to liquidate the finance companies in accordance with applicable legal provisions.
Central Investments and Finance Limited, ETI Finance Limited, TKS Finance Limited, the Finance Company PLC and the Standard Credit Finance Limited will be liquidated accordingly. The Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka took measures to either cancel or suspend the licenses of the 5 finance companies last October. An advisory committee was established by the Monetary Board last year to examine possible revival options for 5 failed finance companies. The Monetary Board vested the committee with the responsibility of recommending possible revival options or recommending liquidation for aforementioned 5 failed finance companies if such revival options do not seem feasible. The committee submitted its final report to the Monetary Board on the 31st of May this year. Given the present economic conditions, the advisory committee does not expect any viable proposals to be received from prospective investors. Under these circumstances, the only option concerning the 5 failed finance companies would be to continue with liquidation proceedings or filing for liquidation. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says the country should only be governed by following democratic procedures.
He made these remarks during a media briefing held at the opposition leader's office yesterday. The discussion was held over the establishment of a new secretariat of the formulation of a common agenda. It was held with the participation of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa. Representatives of various entities including civil organizations and Samagi Janabalawege parliamentarians were present at this occasion. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa said that the proposal presented through the protest site will be submitted at the business committee scheduled to be convened on Thursday as an exemplary move. He added that they cannot continue to boycott the parliament permanent as responsible public representatives to find solutions for the prevailing crisis in the country. Leader of the National People's Power, Andhra Kumara Dissanayake, says that the country cannot be rebuilt based on disruptive economic policies and present political culture.
Speaking at a media briefing, he said that therefore the government should be removed. NPP leader Andhra Kumara Dissanayake said that the government has shown its inability to resolve this crisis with the recent collapse. He added that the country is experiencing various shortages while people continue to remain in queues. He said that people should not tolerate such atrocities anymore. Therefore, he said that the governing authority should be compelled to resign from the government in order to control the further deterioration of the country. He requests the nation to come together against the present government.
And meanwhile, the independent group of parliamentarians met with the Chinese ambassador in Sri Lanka yesterday. The meeting was held to seek the assistance from friendly nations to fulfill essential medicinal and food requirements. Accordingly, parliamentarians Partali Champik Ranaveka, Kumara Velgama, Anura Priyadarshani Yapa, Dr. Shudarshini Fernando Pulle, Chandima Virakodi and Priyank Rajaratne were present at this occasion. MP Partali Champik Ranaveka said that negotiations should be conducted to fulfill essential medicinal food and requirements for the public amidst the crisis. MP Partali Champik Ranaveka said that these countries are willing to help Sri Lanka at this juncture. He added that the parliamentarians are ready to fulfill these duties by negotiating their proposals with the government.
Minister Professor G.L. Peiris met with the delegations of Commonwealth member states to discuss a range of issues of political and economic significance, including overcoming the current economic crisis. These issues were discussed in a series of bilateral meetings held on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting 2022 in Kigali, Rwanda.
Minister Peiris discussed development and issues related to the tourism, which is critical for bilateral relations with the heads of delegations from Dominica and Seychelles. Minister Peiris said that Sri Lanka was focused on Seychelles as a gateway to enchanting trade and bilateral relations with the African continent. In a bilateral meeting with the Bangladesh Minister for Foreign Affairs, A.K. Abdul Momen, the Bangladesh delegation briefed Minister Peiris on steps being taken by the country to assist Sri Lanka during the current economic crisis, including those provision of food, medical assistance and the extension of a credit line. Minister Peiris thanked Minister for giving the assistance at the critical stage. Several issues related to enhancing multifaceted bilateral relations were discussed in a bilateral meeting between Minister Peiris and Malaysian Minister for Foreign Affairs Saifuddin Abdullah. Minister Abdullah stated that many Sri Lankans' origins in Malaysia have contributed to the growth of Malaysia. Nothing that the Malaysian government was focused on developing a digital economy. Minister Abdullah suggested that Sri Lanka explore the job market for IT workers in Malaysia. Minister Peiris' bilateral meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cyprus focused on employment opportunities and consular assistance to the Sri Lankan workers in Cyprus. Minister Peiris appreciated the employment opportunities provided by Cyprus and added that Sri Lanka was keen to increase foreign employment opportunities. The minister also held discussions with the heads of delegations of Kenya, Mauritius and Rwanda. Previously, Minister Peiris had bilateral discussions with the Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jayasankar and Minister for Foreign Affairs on New Zealand Nahinda Bahuta on the sidelines of Chogam.
In the meantime, the Sri Lankan Navy has taken a group of people who had allegedly attempted to migrate to Australia illegally in a fishing trawler into custody yesterday. A total of 47 persons were detected in the trawler. The multi-day fishing trawler was inspected during a special search operation conducted around the coastal line near Negombo area last night. Accordingly, Sri Lankan Navy has taken 34 males, 6 elderly females and 7 children along with 5 suspects who had aided the illegal migration into custody. People in various parts of the country now show a great interest on paddy and other alternative crop cultivations.
And peoples are involving in such cultivations with the aim to face the looming food crisis. Harvesting of the paddy cultivations under South Canal of the Senanayaka Samudra in Ampara was commenced recently. Close to 30,000 acre area have been successfully cultivated under this project. Close to 100-acre area has been cultivated with big onions in Arahara Divisional Secretariat Division. Farmers have said that the land has been prepared using organic fertilizer. An organic vegetable cultivation has been carried out at the Nakuta Agrarian Services Centre premises in Kaluthura. The relevant cultivation has been maintained with the labour of the relevant officers attached to the centre. Stay tuned for international news at the other side of this break.
අසීමාන්තික බලාපොරොත්තු කාලයත් සමග මියදෙන්නට නොදී සීනුවනින් යුතුව අලුත් ගමනකට සැරසෙන තාරුණ්‍යයේ පෙර ගමන සවිමත් කරන්නට NB අපි සූදානම්. මේ අසීරුම කාල සීමාවේදීත් 140ක වට්ටමක් අප ඔබට ලබා දෙන්නෙමු. NB Luxury Designer Wear Hotline 0777 125 000.
Welcome back with international news. And at least 46 people have been found dead in an abandoned truck on the outskirts of San Antonio, Texas.
Fire officials said 16 people, including 4 children, had also been taken to hospital. It is reported that the survivors were hot to the touch and suffering from heat stroke and heat exhaustion. San Antonio, which is 250 kilometers from the US-Mexico border, is a major transit route for people smugglers. Human traffickers often use trucks to transport undocumented migrants after meeting them in remote areas once they have managed to cross onto the United States. Officials said a city worker had discovered the scene after hearing cries for help. Emergency responders initially arrived at the scene. San Antonio Fire Chief Charles Hood told reporters.
Welcome back, and now it's a sports update. So Captain Dimuth Karunaratne, which is Test cricket captain for Sri Lanka, has made remarks over the first test match to be played tomorrow with India and with Australia, and he says that spinners are set to take a major role in the defence battle against Australia.
The Test series between Sri Lanka and Australia is set to commence tomorrow at the Galle International Cricket Stadium. The two-match series has been titled as Vaughan Muralidharan Trophy. The first match will be dedicated in memory of Australia's legendary leg spinner Shane Warne. Sri Lanka Cricket has announced that a memorial ceremony will be held prior to the match to commemorate late Shane Warne. Sri Lanka Cricket Management, as well as Chief Executive Officer of Sri Lanka Cricket, or rather Cricket Australia, Nick Howley, set to take part in this ceremony. A test series between Sri Lanka and Australia is taking place after 2016. Sri Lanka managed to win the series 3 games to 0. Players of both the sides engaged in their final preparations at the grounds for the match tomorrow. Captain of the Australian side, Pat Cummins, said that competing against Sri Lanka in their home soil is a tremendous challenge.
It's quite different to what we experience in Australia, so that's the challenge of trying to win overseas. A lot of our preparation work's been finding a method that's going to work for us and trusting that we might go about it a little bit differently to perhaps Sri Lanka will. So yeah, they're going to pose a challenge, but we're up for it.
He also made remarks regarding the current situation in Sri Lanka.
That fifth ODI, I've never seen anything like it. I'm not sure in Australia we've ever given that much support to a travelling team. So no, we've been following it closely. It's something we spoke about in our team meetings as well. You know, we're so lucky to come here and experience Sri Lanka pretty normally to how we would experience. You know, I on a call yesterday and chatted to some young girl cricketers, and you know, they're down to 1 meal a day. They're going to school a couple of days a week because the teachers can't get to school. they're from a fishing village. A lot of them can't go out to fish because they've got no petrol. So, we're certainly seeing the effects. Even in the buses, we're seeing the queues of kilometres long around petrol stations. So, that's really hit home for us. I think no matter what the result is, we're just in a really privileged position, and there's lots of people that are making this happen for us to go out and have a bit of fun and play cricket. So we're really lucky.
Unveiling a Vaughan Muralidharan trophy will be carried out with the participation of the captains of both sides. The live telecast of the first test match will be brought to you on Channel I of the national television at 10 a.m.
Sri Lanka women's cricket team has secured a 7-wicket victory in the T20 match played against India and yesterday with Dambulla Cricket International Cricket Stadium.
India batting first scored 138 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in their innings. Harmanpreet scored 39. Sri Lanka was able to chase the target of 139 in the 17th over with 7 wickets in hand. Captain Chamari Athapattu scored 80 runs in 48 deliveries. The Inter-Club One-Day Cricket Tournament organised by Sri Lanka Cricket is currently underway. Under the tournament, the match between Kalutara Club and Bloomfield was held at the Bloomfield grounds. Batting first, Bloomfield scored 276 runs. However, chasing a target of 277, Kalutara Club was only able to gather 222 runs for their innings. Accordingly, Bloomfield won the match by 54 runs. Para Games commenced today after a gap of 2 years. The 2-day tournament is taking place at the Sugatadasa Stadium in Colombo. This has been organised by Sri Lanka Paralympic Committee. Inter-district hockey tournament began yesterday after 3 years at the Colombo Hockey Grounds. Teams representing Colombo, Kalutara, Gampaha, Matale, Kandy, Puttalam, Badulla, Gaul and Matara are taking part in the tournament. The tournament is organised by Sri Lanka Schools Hockey Federations.
And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Due to tomorrow at the very same time. Signing off with Sharifa, I'm Charita. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night.